Hey guys, my original plan was to come home, shower and shave, eat dinner, and then watch cartoons with my grandson Jack until I went to Mass tonight, Holy Thursday. But I had some comments I really felt like I needed to respond to, and so my grandson's sitting here patiently. I told him if he stays quiet, I'll let him say hello to you guys at the end of the video. If he gets bored, I'll have to help him army crawl underneath the wire and leave the room. So let's get started. So I noticed I get these comments that seem to me to be anti-Semitic and anti-Ukraine, and so I didn't want to leave any doubt where I stood on these two countries. I know a lot of YouTubers that are afraid to say anything. I know a lot of YouTubers are afraid to say certain things for a couple reasons. They I don't know, maybe they're afraid it'll affect their income. And maybe they're a little soft. Some of these comments hurt people's feelings. So I just want to make this clear. I'm going to say what I mean and mean what I say, because number one, I could care less how this affects my income, because Jehovah Jireh is my provider. And number two, I promise you, I'm not soft. There's nothing you could say that's meaner than my company commander said to me during boot camp. So with that being said, I'm going to tell you how I feel about these two countries. So first of all, we'll start with Ukraine. The comments I get about Ukraine is Zelensky's a bad guy. To me, this is a straw man argument, because in the 90s, Bill Clinton made a deal with the Ukraine people, made a deal with Ukraine. He promised the Ukraine people that if they would get rid of their nuclear weapons, America would protect them if they were invaded by Russia. And Russia was in on the agreement and promised not to invade them if they got rid of their nuclear weapons. So, one second, guys. Say hello, and then you gotta be quiet. Say hi, this is my grandson, Jack. Say hi.
Hi.
All right, now you gotta sit here quiet. I'm sorry, guys. So we made a deal in the 90s, and what happens is a lot of people read about history. I watch history. I'm 57 years old. I've been in tune with politics. I've been in tune with current events my whole life. And what happened in the 90s was this. Thanks to Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr., George H.W. Bush, the Soviet, and Pope John Paul and Margaret Thatcher, the Soviet Union collapsed. Ukraine was a free and sovereign nation once again, but they had the third largest arsenal of nuclear weapons in the world. And Clinton thought it would be best if they didn't have them. So Bill Clinton, I know Jesus is up there. So praise the Lord, my grandson said Jesus is up there. So I'm really sorry, guys. I really want to do this video, but this is the only way I can get it done. So until I hit the lotto and I can have me a nice fancy studio and do this full time, this is what you got to put up with if you want to watch Blue Collar Catholic. So anyhow, Clinton thought it was a good idea that they would get rid of their nuclear weapons. And of course, Russia thought it was a good idea if they got rid of their nuclear weapons. So the deal was made in the 90s. I believe it was like 94. If Ukraine got rid of the weapons, Russia would not invade them. But if they did invade them, America was protect them. So, of course, you can't trust the communists, even if they say they're not communists. Putin is KGB down to the core. He was a KGB agent. He's a hardcore communist. No matter what he says, don't buy it. He's a communist. Once a communist, always a communist. Unless you convert and actually have a conversion to Jesus Christ and realize the evil of communism. So Putin is a communist, an atheist and a communist, no matter what he says about Mary and Jesus. People are so gullible to think, oh, he loves Mary, he loves Jesus. No, he doesn't. He's a communist. They hate religion. They hate God. They're godless. So, of course, yeah. So, of course, when Obama was president, Putin invaded. He violated that treaty, and Obama did nothing about it. He annexed Crimea. Obama did nothing about it. And most people thought it was because Obama was weak. And no, that's not why. It's because his ideology is the same as the Democrats' ideology has been for decades. That America is the problem in the world, not the solution. And Madeleine Albright, his Clinton's Secretary of State, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, said she thought it was a bad thing when the Soviet Union collapsed, because now we're the only superpower and we need to be kept in check because America is bad. This is the Democrat ideology. I'm sorry, guys. This is the Democrats' ideology that America is the problem. The Republicans' ideology is America is the solution. We believe a stronger America is better for the world. Democrats believe a weaker America is better for the world. I mean, and Joe Biden has these type of people in his administration right now. Anita Dunn has on record, she's one of his aides, on record saying this, as well as Susan Rice and others. So this is the Democrats' ideology. So this is why it wasn't surprising to me on a hot mic, President Obama back in the day told the president of Russia, Medved, I believe his name was at the time, but Putin was still in charge. He said, tell Vlad after the election I'll have more latitude to get rid of those defense systems in Poland, I think they were. And it was a big deal. He got caught on a hot mic, basically saying, we'll let you guys invade, which they did. So everybody figured they started with Crimea. The next move would go after the whole 9 yards, to go after the full Monty, take Ukraine totally. But the globalist plan got a little shaken up because Trump surprised everybody and won. And there's no way Vladimir Putin was going to invade Ukraine under Trump. Because number one, Trump knew how to deal with these people. He made Russia weaker and us stronger by making us energy independent. The price of a barrel of oil was down to $30 a barrel under Trump. So the Russians were going broke because that's their main source of income is oil. And he wouldn't approve the oil pipeline from Russia to Germany, because like, why would we help the Russians when we're paying all this NATO money to protect Europe from the Russians? So instead, he approved a pipeline in America to make us energy independent. And one of the first things that Joe Biden did was approve the Russian pipeline and cancel our pipeline, the XL pipeline, along with many other decisions he made, rescinding Trump's energy policies that were making us energy dominant in the world, to making us dependent on Russian oil again. So now Russia had the money, because a barrel of oil went up to like $80. So Russia had the money, and then they invaded. And Biden was just going to let them invade, just like he did with Afghanistan. We made a promise to the Afghanistan people that we wouldn't leave them helpless. We made a promise to the 20,000 Special Forces Afghan soldiers that all had prices on their head, that we would take them out if we were able to leave. Biden abandoned the Afghanistan people. He abandoned those 20,000 operators, and he abandoned hundreds of American civilians as well. And what did he do? He gave the president of Afghanistan a bunch of money to leave and got them free passage out. And who did it help? It helped China. China's now building a pipeline across Afghanistan, Iran. Plus, they're getting all the minerals they need for their batteries out of Afghanistan. They're pillaging all the minerals they need for their batteries so they can sell them to us for our electric cars that Joe Biden is pushing. So what? I'm sorry, guys. So now he was going to do the same thing with Ukraine. He offered Zelensky a ticket out, and he was just going to let them take over. And you've seen it. You know, I was just a petty officer in the Navy, but when I seen 150,000 Russian troops on the border, I knew he was going to invade. And he kept saying, "If you invade, I'm gonna give you sanctions." It's like, no, he would have never did it on Trump before they would even got within 100 yards. Trump would have just hurt them financially. He would have crippled them financially. Plus, Trump told them, "Vlad, if you invade Ukraine, I'll drop a bomb on Moscow." Now, Trump probably wasn't serious, but Putin probably, they say, Pompeo said 5% of Putin wasn't sure. 5% of his brain wasn't sure if Trump would do it or not. He was afraid of Trump. He respected Trump. And so they invaded Ukraine on Obama, and then they took the whole thing under Biden. And Biden was just going to let it happen. You know, he put some little sanctions on there. And but Zelensky threw a wrench in his plan. He's like, "No, I'm not going to surrender. We're going to fight." And the Ukraine people said, "We're going to fight." So then Biden was pressured. He would have looked like really bad if he didn't support him, because we had an agreement. And again, all I keep hearing is Zelensky this, Zelensky that. Zelensky doesn't matter. He's a red herring. He's a straw man. We promised, the American people promised the Ukraine people, get rid of the nukes and we'll protect you. And so we're protecting them. But Biden got pulled kicking and screaming. This wasn't part of his plan. This wasn't part of his plan at all. So I support Ukraine. And you know, what I learned in the Navy, leaders are not born. You're not born a leader. Circumstances in life make you a leader. And maybe Zelensky wasn't the best guy. I don't know a lot about him. I hear, you know, he did this and that, and he was in drag, whatever. But he's shown leadership for his people. He's shown leadership, more leadership than we're seeing from Joe Biden by far. So maybe he's becoming a leader through this adversity. And people are like, no, there's no accountability for the money. Well, there needs to be accountability for the money. We need to know where the money's going that we're sending. I agree with that. So I support Ukraine. Now, as far as Israel, I get a lot of and the way this started, I got thrown off track with my grandson here, but the way this started was, I just put a quote. I thought Kevin McCarthy came out with a very smart quote. I thought it was very clever and funny. They asked him, what did the Chinese say? He met with the Taiwan president today or yesterday, and the communist Chinese didn't like that, and so they threatened. They made a bunch of threats, and they said, "Well, what do you think about the threats of China?" He goes, "I'm the Speaker of the House. I'm not the owner of the Houston Rockets. I don't have to listen to China." I thought it was funny because the NBA just bowed down to China because there's so much money involved. So they'll talk bad about America. LeBron James and all the owners will bash America day and night, but they'll never say a bad word about communist China. They'll never say a bad word about communist China. So I thought that was a pretty clever quote. And then in response, I got, yeah, but he'll listen to the Zionists, he'll listen to Israel, he'll listen to Zelensky. So, getting to Israel, I noticed that there's a group of people, and I'm going to tell you where this group is coming from in a minute. But this is what I'm going to say about Israel. Politically, again, I've been a political nerd my whole life. I'm 57 years old. Israel has been America's greatest ally in my lifetime, number one. And Donald Trump, and these people seem to like Donald Trump but hate Israel, which doesn't make any sense because Donald Trump was Israel's best friend. Donald Trump is the only president of the United States that has towns and bridges named after him in the state of Israel. Donald Trump was Israel's best friend because he recognized. Donald Trump, what I like about Trump, I'm the same way. I recognize loyalty. Loyalty means a lot to Trump. And he knew how loyal Israel was to us, so he was loyal to them. And as far as the history of the Catholic Church, I think it was Pope Pius XII during World War II. He risked his life hiding over 900,000 Jews from the Nazis. After World War II, the state of Israel gave our Pope, the Catholic Pope, the highest civilian medal ever given out. There's like 30 Jewish groups that gave our Pope the highest medal. The chief rabbi of Italy, Israel Zahler, converted to Catholicism because of how the Catholics protected Jews. Hundreds of Catholic priests and Catholic nuns were tortured and murdered, saving the Jews. Maximilian Kolbe, one of our greatest saints, became a saint because he gave his life in the Holocaust. You know? And he was thrown into he was protecting a Polish guy, but he was thrown into the concentration camp because he was hiding Jews. He was caught. So this is our history. And I don't know how a Catholic could be anti-Semitic. Jesus was a Jew. The apostles were Jews. The first disciples were Jews. And Jesus said, salvation is from the Jews. So our Catholic history, we support the Jews. So where is this anti-Semitism coming from? I notice it seems to be coming from the same group that hates Pope Francis and loves the excommunicated Catholic guy named Marcel Lefebvre. Now, besides Marcel Lefebvre giving the middle finger to a saint, and besides his followers calling Saint Pope John Paul II a heretic and calling excommunicated Marcel Lefebvre a saint, besides that, Marcel Lefebvre promoted his homosexual predator priest friends, but besides that, he promoted anti-Semitic bishops that denied the Holocaust. Yeah, Marcel Lefebvre promoted and were friends with people who denied the Holocaust. And the cult he started, the SSPX, planned a big funeral for a Nazi, not like a Nazi, a real Nazi, someone who was convicted of being a Nazi, spent his life in jail for admitting to exterminating thousands of Jews, and said he would do it again because he's a Nazi. The SSPX was planning a big funeral to honor this Nazi until a lot of Catholics protested and they called it off. So for some reason, this SSPX cult attracts a lot of anti-Semitic people who call themselves Catholics. So I think that's where that's coming from. Now, I don't want people to say I'm saying Marcel Lefebvre's gay, although I've seen him and he don't seem like the toughest guy. He seems a little feminine. And that's another funny thing. I see all these SSPX guys always talking about how tough they are, and they're always talking about masculinity, male masculinity. Well, I know a lot of tough guys I grew up with. I knew a lot of tough guys in the military, and I'm a friend right now with a lot of ex-military guys that are very tough. And none of us ever used the word masculinity. Just saying. I don't know. But anyway, so God bless America. God bless Israel. God bless Ukraine. Stay Catholic. And come on at me, brother. I'm ready.